Thank you for joining. And I hope you are having a wonderful and amazing evening. So definitely pleased to add another session here from Community Dream Makers, and this time we thought that we will go a little bit about and talk about budget, right? Why is budgeting important? Is because that's the best way to get your savings in a good place, right? When you think about budgeting, usually it's about your expenses. How do you account for all your expenses? But we want to change the narrative here and have your budgeting as a part of your savings as well. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll go ahead and get started. Please give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen, okay? Yes, all right, very good. So first tip is, we want to understand personal finances and how to set goals, right? So before you are able to put together a budget, is understanding what are your goals. And then we want to show you how to create a realistic and effective budget, give you practical tips on how to reduce your expenses and boost your savings, very important. Maintain motivation and adjusting your budget over time. It can be draining to just continuously try to save and save and save. It becomes burdensome. All right. So sometimes it's okay to relax a little bit and say, hey, we've done a great job. We've hit our target. Let's just, enjoy something. All right. Nothing wrong with that. And I did put a video here for you guys to watch at a later time. It's called Master Your Cash Flow. Why is that important? Once you budget, you want to maximize your savings. When you maximize your savings, what are you doing with it? It's important to also understand what to do with your savings so that that can create some cash flow for you so that you don't necessarily have to constantly be working and sweating out for your days. At some point, you want that return to bring you an income. All right. So just a few tips. It's a quick, 20-minute video and so forth. So, all right. So let's start with understanding personal finances and how to set your goals. Now, first thing you want to do is assess your income and expenses. It seems very simple, but a lot of folks have a hard time really grasping how much income they're bringing, especially nowadays when everyone has a hustle and nothing wrong with that, right? So some people might be selling a few things on the side, or you have a full-time job and then add a part-time, or you might be Ubering on the side, right? So you want to make sure that you have a good grasp of all the income that you bring in. Second thing is make sure you have a list of your monthly expenses. Could be your rent, could be your car note, could be your insurance, it could be your subscriptions. Whatever it is, you want to make sure you have a list of all the different expenses that you have, reoccurring or not. And we'll deep dive into that a little bit more and identify areas of improvement. Okay. Sometimes we get too comfortable. We have the same cable service that we've had since 2009. We haven't made any changes, yet we are still paying $200. Okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable, letting those things go for something different, better, cheaper. Okay. So identify areas of improvement. Now, when it comes to defining your targets, you want to understand what is your goal. You want to set short-term and long-term financial goals. Okay? Why is that important? Because in a short term, we all need emergency funds. Emergency funds will help us pay the unexpected. It could be the car breaks down, you might need a new tire, you may have to go see the doctor. So things happen, all right? But having a little bit of money aside set for that is important, okay? Now, you also want to have long-term goals. It's not just about using everything you bring in, but it's also about making sure that you are saving for the future. All right. So what is your goal? What is your plan? What do you want to do with that money? Okay. Now, a couple of things that you can use to track your spending habits. Let me share my screen real quick. You can leverage old school ways, and I'll give you guys an example, right, of a few tools that you can use like Excel, Drawdown, and we go through some of those tools. Or you can just use your app. All right. Most banking entities have an application where they can track your expenses. What is your monthly expenditure? Okay, so this is an account where it's nothing, spectacular. It's simply to pay the bills. Money comes in, it pays the bill. Nothing is accumulating, but sometimes it will tell you, hey, you overspent here. What was that? I can go back and look at it. All right. So as long as I stay within a threshold, that's all I want. If a month goes too high, I need to understand why. So that's kind of a tool that you can leverage to keep track of your expenditure. Again, you can create some yourself, but a lot of banking entities have something that you can use nowadays. All right. So it will also break it down and tell you where you're spending the most. Like I said, obviously, this is an account where it's just designed to pay the bills. So the loans, credit card, things of that nature will be highest. But at least I know some of recurring bills, maybe transportation. It could be, NTTA or whatever, paying for the tollway. But it gives you a breakdown of what it is. You can create your own budget, right? You can set how much you want to spend or not spend. It's giving you everything you need. You can view the details, okay? So you can view the details. It gives you a nice little chart of what you are spending on average. It's giving you what is coming in, what is coming out, and what, right? It gives you the auto transportation. It could be insurance and whatnot. It's telling you if it's a utility bill. You can track if it stays steady. And some months it might go too high, right? So So at least it tells you, you can look and say, wait a minute, why is my utilities double than what I normally pay? You can track that. All right. So things of that nature, you can definitely track leveraging your bank and so forth. You can do a budget watch. All right. It tells you what you want to look at. Okay. So the point being, leverage those tools that you have at your disposal. Okay. It has a lot of different libraries that you can look at, take a tour, service for retirement strategies. So nowadays you can find all those tools, and I will give you some other tools that are free. You don't have to pay a dime to leverage those tools. Okay. And I'll show you those in a little bit here. All right. So let me continue. All right. So, like I said, use tracking tools, and I just gave you an example. Now, how do you create a realistic and effective budget? All right. So, number one is you can leverage what we call a zero-based budgeting. It's essentially making sure that you are tracking everything that you're spending dollar for dollar. And you know exactly how much you're spending and how much you have left. Or some people use what we call the 50-30-20 rule. All right. So 50% is really on what you need, 30% on the wants, and you at least save 20%. Okay. So the wants, you might be able to save and transfer some of that into your savings, especially if you're like, hey, I want this, but do I really need it? All right. So it makes you think before you spend anything, it's just pause and ask yourself the question, do I really need to spend money on that? Okay. All right. And sometimes it's just decision making. You're looking for a new place to live. If you're renting, you can find a neighborhood. You're like, all right, I can spend 3 grand living uptown, or I can spend half of that living in the suburbs, still in a nice area that has good schools. You may not want to spend less than that, maybe $700, but in a neighborhood that's not very friendly, right? So it's just finding the right balance and how you are looking at your wants and your needs. All right. Now, when you look at your expenses, some expenses are very fixed. They remain the same. Your mortgage, your rent, you pay the exact same amount every month. There are some that are variable, right? They might go up, they might go down. Your electricity, your food, your gas, depending on, if you travel more this month, you might spend a little bit more, right? So very important to understand what fluctuates and what is fixed. Why? Because you control what is variable. All right. You can definitely make an effort to reduce your electricity bill by not letting your AC running all day when you're not home, or not letting the lights on, right? Or not running the dishwasher 3, 4, 5 times a day. So there are a few things that you can do to control what's variable. Understanding that what's fixed might not change, okay? Be prepared to do some budgeting adjustment as well. Whatever budget you used 3 years ago may not be the same budget that you need now that you have a child, okay? Or maybe you've got married, or maybe you're traveling more for work, or your office just relocated, right? So it used to be 5 minutes from the home. Now it's an hour away, right? So now you want to think about more frequent oil change, more fuel that you have to put in, things of that nature. So always be willing to do a budget adjustment. My wife and I look at our budget at least minimum every 3 months, where we sit down, look at everything, and see if we need to make any adjustments. All right, so allocating your funds for savings and necessities. When you are allocating your funds, you always want to look at, okay, what is the priority, right? What do we prioritize? And making sure that it makes sense. Sometimes we may want to buy a few clothes, but it's not the right time. It's okay to say no, all right? Or you may compromise. Maybe it's a child activity. Maybe they want to play sports or do something, right? But you can't do 2 or 3 different sports. You want to pick one, right? So it's just prioritizing and making sure that, the expenses that you have are truly needed. Even when it comes to maybe buying something, do you really need it? Can you sell it for less, right? So maybe if you go buy, I don't know, a bunch of name brand, can you sell it for non-name brand, right? Still good, but give you a better price, right? And you want to make sure that you have a fixed amount allocated just for your savings so you can hit your goal. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. All right. Now, going back to some of those tools that you can use, I showed you a tool that I use for, from my bank. I use Wells Fargo. I like them because they don't charge me a lot of fees and they give me a lot of comprehensive tools since that's the bank that I use to pay most of my bills. It gives me a good comprehensive tracking where I'm up, where I'm down, and so forth. But they are, Good Budget is a good one. SoFi Relay is another good one. Rocket Money, Empower, so those are great tools that you can leverage to keep track of your expenses. Okay. Now, let me give you another good old Excel spreadsheet here and give you an example of a budgeting. And when it comes to making sure that you understand what you make, right? All right. Can you guys see my screen okay? Yes? Okay. Are you seeing the
Yep.
spreadsheet?
Yep. We can see it. We can see the spreadsheet as well.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we are looking at a family here that it's a family of four, has an income of $7,000, just an example, no particular reason. So first thing, like I mentioned, is understanding how much money you bring in. Now, for this family, they live in uptown Dallas. Every number here is an average. You can fact check looking at Copilot or Siri, just an average number compiled based on market data. All right. It could be more, it could be less. That's my disclaimer. So rent uptown could be about $2,700. Electricity is about 150, and so forth, right? Your renter's insurance, the apartment is bigger, more fancy, so you pay a little bit more. Here, the person is driving a Mercedes. On average, it's a C-Class, about $913 for the car note. Insurance is about 142. Groceries for a family of four, I was very surprised, but at the same time, not surprised. With the inflation and groceries for 4 kids per month, I'm like, I can see folks spending 1350, per month, because on average for us it's about 200, 250 per week. So definitely it goes up there. Dining out on average, it's about 373. Personal hygiene, toothbrush, soap, on a monthly basis, you're looking at $90. Cell phones, if you have, with Verizon for the premium plan, it's about 220 for a family of four. And then subscriptions on average, you're talking about Prime, you're talking about your internet, cable, all of that, it's about 279. So total expenses for this family is around 6,306. So yes, they're bringing $7,000 a month, but at the end, all they have to save is about 694. All right. So at least it's clear of what the budget is. They know exactly how much they bring in. They know exactly what's left. All right. Now, this is how we change the paradigm. Let me change this. All right. Now, this is how we change the paradigm. Same family, same income. All right. But instead of living uptown, they live, in a decent DFW neighborhoods. And all of a sudden, they spend a little bit less on rent, about 1,500. But remember what I told you, when it comes to budgeting, usually it's about expenses. All right. So we want to shift the paradigm here and pay ourselves first. Very important. Always put yourself first. 10% is the bare bone minimum. Obviously, here, looking at the 50, 30, 20, this family is paying themselves 20%. All right. So they are putting aside for their long-term savings just about $1,400. Now they're paying their rent. They're finding a cheaper place. Electricity is a little bit cheaper as well, actually about the same. Water, all of that you have to pay, it's about the same. Renter's insurance is a little bit cheaper because the apartment costs less. And they opted for a cheaper vehicle. It's nice to have the Mercedes, but they're like, hey, a Corolla is just nice. Now, here, be aware, the interest is a little bit more expensive on the Corolla, although it's a cheaper vehicle because the Mercedes has better safety features. All right, so I was surprised when I saw that too. I was like, what? It's cheaper to insure a Mercedes than it is a Corolla, but it's true. Now, groceries, as opposed to spending 13.50, as opposed to going, to Kroger, here they're going to Walmart. All right. So, yeah, a little bit different place of shopping. Dining out, they're just like, hey, we just eat at home for this month. Again, this is a monthly budget, right? So for this month, they're like, we are not eating out, so they're not spending anything dining out. Personal hygiene remains. You still have to buy your shampoo, toothpaste. Cell phone, as opposed to have a premium plan with Verizon, they opted to have a Metro PCS plan. Remember what we talked about when you review your budget, you can find different ways to save. Subscriptions, they're like, hey, we don't need cable. We don't need anything else, right? We just need our internet. And you can get an internet for 40 bucks, unlimited Wi-Fi, and that's what they opted for. You can usually get a box for just Wi-Fi. So you cut down on your subscriptions tremendously. As a result, this family is able to save about $1,800. Okay, $1,800 savings. That's including their long-term saving. How amazing is that? Same income. Not only they can put aside savings for long term, but they can also put aside savings for short term and just other investment options that they choose. They can now put a little bit of money in the stock market, right? So first put about 3 to 6 months of savings for your emergency funds. Then you can buy a little bit of stocks here and there. All right. So same income, same family, different decisions. Now look at what's happening here. All right. So just wanted to show you a little bit of how making a financial decision, budgeting, reviewing everything can make a big difference. You wouldn't have known that you were paying too much for your rent if you didn't look at it, right? You wouldn't have known that you're paying too much on your cell phone if you didn't reevaluate or your subscriptions. And I'm not even playing here because I remember when I first got married, I was like, okay, I need to cut down on some of my bills, but just cutting down some of my cell phones and cable and things of that nature, I was able to save about $1,000 a month. And it blew my mind. I had two cars. Why? I was paying twice the insurance. Sold one, everything. So about $1,000 savings by just reevaluating. All right. So let me continue here. There we go. Now, with that saving, it's good to have money aside, but what do you do with the saving? All right. So I want to talk a little bit about three rules of money. Now, when it comes to building wealth, either you are super rich, you're already living off the interest, but if you are like myself, where I have to build my wealth, then it's important to understand these few rules. Okay. Rule number one is compounding. All right. So, compounding interest. And the way we look at this is the rule of 72. Some of you may have heard it, some of you may have not, and that's okay. Rule of 72 says that, hey, you take 72 divided by your rate of return, it gives you the number of years that your money will double. All right? Super example, easy. If you put your money in an account that gives you 1% return, it will take you 72 years for your $10,000 to double. At 4%, 72 divided by 4 gives you 18. Now your money doubles what? Every 18 years. All right. Now, a little bit better, 8%. Now your money doubles every 9 years. $10,000 becomes, after the same 36 years, it becomes $160,000. At 12%, double digits, the same $10,000 over 36 years becomes $640,000. That is the power of compounding. All right. So over time, the better interest you get, the more money you're making. And the difference between 4%, where most people put money in their bank, like a CD or something, or high yield account, and 12%, the difference is $600,000. It is massive. Okay, so understand where you want your money to grow. All right. Second thing is the risk. All right, well, Patrick, it's good. I want to invest, but it's very risky. The market is risky. How do I know where to put my money in, which stock to buy? All right, so the risk is another factor. So if you put your money in a fixed account, it's very safe. You don't have any risk of losing. But like I showed you, 1%, 4%, it's growing, but very slowly. All right. So what do most people do? They put the money in a variable account. The only problem with a variable account is when your money goes up, it goes up. When the money goes down, it goes down with it. All right. So let me give you an example here. I'm going to reshare my screen very shortly. I just want to give you a quick illustration of what that means in terms of market. All right. So let me reshare, and please let me know if you can see my whiteboard. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my whiteboard.
We
Yes,
can see
thank
it.
you.
It can be seen.
All right, perfect. So quick example. I want to keep the math very simple. If you put $100 in the stock market and you look at it like, hey, the market was flat at 0%. That's fantastic. Technically, you should have your $100, right? However, we know the stock market doesn't operate that way. When the market, let's say, goes down 50%, which the market does, it goes up and down, your $100 is slashed in half. Now you have 50, okay? And then the market goes back up 50%. Technically, you should go back to your $100. Unfortunately, it's 50% of your $50, which is what? $25, right? So 25 plus the 50, that is $75. Okay? So when you look at the market like, oh, the market was flat at 0%, you actually lost 25% of your money. Okay? So just keep that in mind when it comes to investing in the stock market. I'm not saying do not invest in the stock market. That's not what I'm saying. It's a good place to invest. But before you invest there, make sure that you have some type of savings somewhere, that you are comfortable with what you put in the stock, because you could lose it. Just make sure you're comfortable with any losses that may occur. All right. So going back to the presentation. All right. Now, another strategy that you can leverage is indexing strategy. All right. So what it does when the market goes up, it goes up with it. But when the market goes down, it kind of waits out. Market goes up, the money goes up with it. When the market crash, it just weighs out so you don't lose. It's called indexing strategy. It provides you with safety and growth. All right, something to think about. Now, you've heard of Warren Buffett. He has two rules of money. Rule number one is don't lose money. Nobody goes into investing and say, hey, I'm okay with losing, right? We saw a lot of people crying who invested in the scooters, LLC, whatever the name was, right? So yes, it's good to invest, but you want to be comfortable if there are any losses. But at the same time, if you are going to invest and put your money somewhere, just make sure that it's not something that you will lose. All right. Rule number two is don't forget rule number one. So very important. Don't lose your money. All right. So we talked about compounding, have a good return. Number two, we talked about the risk of investing. All right. Three, it's your tax. Very important. All right. So when you make some investment, you want to make sure that you understand what your return is going to be and how it's going to be taxed. All right. Tax is the number one killer of wealth. You have to be aware of that. All right. So there are three ways that we pay taxes today: tax now, tax deferred, or tax exempt. Tax now, when every time you get paid, or if you have a 1099, you still have to pay your taxes. Tax deferred, like a 401k or a pension plan or anything, doesn't mean that you are not taxed. It just means that you pay later, all right? Whenever that later is for you. Now, I think we can all agree that taxes might go up in the future. At least now we know what the tax rate is, right? So just keep that in mind. And then tax exempt buckets where you don't pay taxes. So, dumb question here. I'm like, if you're like me, I don't want to pay taxes, right? So something like a Roth IRA or a LERP would be a good vehicle where you don't have to pay taxes. Okay. So in summary, number one, when you are budgeting, it's understanding how much you want to save. We always emphasize on minimum 10%, minimum 10%, right? So when someone say, hey, I don't have any money to put aside, if you don't save when you don't have a lot, you will not be able to save when you have more. All you do is just spend more on more stuff. Okay? So there is a way to review your budget, just like I showed you guys, to be able to put some money aside, but it starts with putting yourself first. Save for yourself first, spend what you have left after you've saved. Okay? Two, you have to protect yourself. We all love our families. We never think about it, but what happens when you can't work? Something happened to you. What happened to your loved ones? Protect your income. All right. If you can't work, and what happened next? What would happen to your family? Right? Or sometimes people will think about life insurance. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but what happened if you can't work, something happened to you, but you didn't die? What do you do? What are you going to supplement your income, right? So think about protecting your income. That's your number one asset. Make sure that you are investing, that you get a good return. Make sure that you have your money growing in a safe place, that you're not losing. Don't be gambling. And make sure that you leverage all the tax advantages that you can. All right. So when you think of the one percenter, the rich folks, why do you think they have a hard time showing their tax return? Right? It's very difficult for them to show when they're paying taxes because they know how not to pay taxes. All right. And there are ways to do it. And make sure that you also can replace your income. Right. So whatever money you make today, make sure that you can have the same in the future when you are no longer working. You want to be able to replace your income for those older age, right? And somebody was asking like, man, Patrick, I can't even buy any type of insurance right now. Things are tight. Okay, so if right now it's difficult for you, you can't buy any insurance because things are tight. How do you think your family will buy that insurance when you're dead? Think about it. All right. So if you can't buy while you're alive, how are you going to buy when you're no longer here? Just think about that for a second. Let that sink in. All right. So prioritize yourself, prioritize your family, and making sure that when you're no longer here, that you are giving them tax-free generational wealth. All right. So budget, but not what to do with your budgeting. And at Community Dream Makers, I think we have enough members here that can show you how to plan for the future, myself included. All right. So going back to the tours that we had, Next thing is let's talk about some practical tips, which I think I went over a few of them already. But make sure that you have enough, of your discretionary income and that you cut down on unnecessary spending. All right. What is necessary? What is not necessary? Your iPhone is still good. Yes, it might be an iPhone 15, but do you need to spend that extra $20 to get a new one? Right? Maybe not. So just think about those things, reducing your maybe trips to the grocery store or gas or things of that nature. You all know your budget better than anybody else here. It's just doing that self-evaluation for yourself and understanding what you want to, reduce, cut down, and save. I had a client of mine who bought a brand new Tesla, right? So brand new Tesla looking amazing, 90 grand. But when I showed him what he can do with his 90 grand, I'm not saying that you have to sell your vehicle, but it got him thinking, right? So he went ahead and bought a Honda Accord and invested the remaining $60,000, right? So there are ways that you can cut down some of your expenses. Again, not saying that you have to do that. All I'm saying, just think about, where you can cut down, right? I mentioned in the past where I had two vehicles. I was getting married. Did I need two cars? No. So I sold the sports car and just kept the sedan, right? So there are different ways that you can do it and so forth. All right. Now, you want to also leverage some of your discounts, coupons, any deal that you can get. Make sure you do that. Now, I want to caution though, if you can get a 20% discount or 30% discount, you can get a 100% discount by actually not buying. All right. So think about it. If you don't buy, that's a 100% discount. All right. So if you really need it, shop for the best deal. Don't just buy the first thing you see. Make sure you're leveraging cash back. We talked about building your credit. So go back and look at some of the videos that we had. We had great training on how to build your credit. You can leverage some of your credit cards. You can leverage your good credit to not pay high interest. Have good credit card where you can actually have cash back every time you spend, but only spend on the things that you need to. Earn the cash back on things that you have to pay for anyway. You have to pay your electricity bill. You have to pay your water. Why not earn cash back on those things that you have to pay anyway? All right. But remember, anything that you don't buy, you save 100%. So don't buy if you don't need to. All right. Now, other things is you can make sure that you have your payments on automatic pay. You have to pay your rent anyway. Don't take a chance of being late or, just make sure that you have those things automatically deducted so that you don't have to think about it and you don't have to worry about paying late fees. Those do accumulate. All right. So over a period of time, you might spend $200 extra on late fees. So avoid paying those. So be smart. Make sure you have a transfer to your savings. Pay yourself first, right? Now, what's the beauty about 401k is it goes directly into the 401k account. You can't touch it until you're 59 and a half. So because you don't see it, because you don't touch it, you forget about it. But somehow when the money hits your savings or your checking, all of a sudden you want to spend it. No, just forget about it. Put it somewhere else automatically where it's deducted and taken out so that it's for your long term and try not to think about it. All right. All right. So now, this one here is really about yourself. It's difficult to be on a strict budget month after month after month. All right? We all know that. It's very difficult, it's very draining. You want to make this joyful. Find joy in watching your savings grow. All right. So it's more fulfilling than a brand new car. I promise you. The brand new car is only nice the first 2, 3 days. Then it gets dirty after rain and it just looks like anything else. But when you watch your savings grow, you can have joy about it, right? So put some target, put some milestone. If you hit 1,000, your first $1,000, hey, get yourself an ice cream or a candy, whatever. Celebrate. Once you hit your first 2,000, celebrate. Get yourself a nice, I don't know, Applebee's 2 for $20. So the point is find a way to celebrate your milestones so that it's not draining, but it's joyful. All right, that's the only way. So once you find that joy of accomplishing your goal, your body, your brain will just tell you to keep on going. If it becomes burdensome, it's harder to get it done. All right, then it becomes stressful because you're always stressing about, oh my gosh, I need to save. Oh my gosh, I need to save. No, no, no. Just make fun out of it. You and your spouse, and or even teach your child how to save, right? And it's never too early to start. If you have children, teach them to save. When you give them $1, yeah, it's just $1, but teach them, hey, take a dime, give it to church, give it to a charity, give it to someone else. Why? It's better to give than to receive. And you start early. If they can do that with $1, they'll be able to do that with 500. All right. And then 20% have them save it. Take two nickels. Hey, just put it on the side, or two dimes, whatever, 20 cents put aside, and only spend 70 cents. Start with $1. Teach them early. All right. Then when they get older, they won't have the itch to just spend, spend, spend. Every time you look on TV, it's commercials. Late night, it's food, it's drink, it's whatever. All right. So they start with the food, and then it's the medication. So just teach the kids very young to save. All right. So it doesn't matter what the amount is. What matters is that they create the habit. All right. So make sure that you adjust to your budget. If you have a new job, sometimes we think about better job, but it could be a lower job, right? It could be a lesser pay, but you're happier doing it. But if you make more money, it doesn't mean that you have to spend more. Just save more. All right. So adjust to whatever the new job is. And if you have to move or reallocate, be mindful of that as well. All right. Sometimes it's okay to move and downgrade just so you can save more. All right. Your kids are getting older. You may have to reevaluate how you're spending. All right. When we used to go out, my son will eat a kid's meal. Now I think he eats more than me. So it's impacting the budget, right? So always make sure that you are readjusting accordingly. All right. So use your accountability tools. I gave you a few rundown of some tools that you can leverage. Use your bank account, set up alert, right? Some of my credit cards, if I hit a certain balance, boom, I get an alert. I'm like, oh, I don't want to spend anymore here. All right. And be aware of common mistakes when you are budgeting, because that can give you some setbacks. Okay. So just be aware if you put money in an investment or it's not growing as much as you want, be okay to pause and reevaluate. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. All right. So in conclusion, make sure you understand your finances. You'll be surprised how many people I speak with have no idea how much they're making. I'm like, you should know your numbers. I'm like, how much money do you bring home? Um, I think is no, know your number. There is no guessing, no buts, no ifs. Know how much you're making, know how much you're spending. All right, keep track of all your expenses. Write it down. If you forget, so continuously reevaluate until you're comfortable. Look for ways to reduce your expenses every month. Count down as necessary. It could be just turning off, like I said, your lights. Don't let your water running too long. I can't tell you how many times I'm behind the kids and be like, hey, don't start the shower until you're ready to get in. Don't just turn the water on and go walk around for 10 minutes. All right, something as simple as that. But hey, it's about staying on top of it. So find ways to reduce expenses and maintain your motivation. All right, find joy by watching your savings grow. Set up some milestones so that when you hit this target, you celebrate. All right. Now, I have a quick exercise for you. You don't have to tell anybody, but just drop down what is your total debt that you have. It could be your mortgage, your car, student loan, whatever it is that, credit card. So write down all the debts that you have. Look at your income and just multiply what your annual income is times 10. If you have a mortgage, what is the balance? 300,000, 200,000, 500,000? And then think about if you aspire to have children or you would want them to go to university, put something around 75 or $100,000 per child in there. The total is about the minimum insurable need. Okay? So just think about that for a second. A lot of us are uninsured. Okay? A lot of us are uninsured, and it's a very important part of our budgeting. Very important part. Okay? So you always want to make sure that all your assets or all your expenses are taken care of in the event that you are no longer here. We don't ever wish for the worst, but we hope for the best, but we plan for the future. Always plan. All right. So quick exercise. Write it down. This is for yourself. Do a total of your debt, 10 times your income. That's what you want to leave behind. What is your mortgage? And also what is your children's education? And do the total. That's about the minimum that you need. All right. In terms of your insurable need. There are different ways to get it. There are different plans to accumulate. And we can talk about it offline, but at least want you to be aware of that. All right. So that's kind of what I had for you guys. Now let me pause and see if anyone has any questions.
Do we need to raise our hands, or can we just go ahead and ask the question?
Yeah,
Whatever.
anybody who has a question, just raise your hand and
Well,
uh
no question, but great presentation.
Thank you, Papa Gilbert. Thank you. I'm trying to be like you, man, with all the knowledge, just sharing the wealth. I loved how you did the presentation last time. I was like, man, that is so good. So you inspired me. I appreciate you.
Thank you, but you did very well.
Thanks, sir. I appreciate it.
and if you don't feel comfortable speaking, you can just leave a question in the chat box and we'll answer it for you.
And we can also feel free to do like Papa Gilbert just did. If you have a comment or if you want to share an experience as far as budgeting is concerned, please do share. We need all the information we can get so that we can all help each other with that.
It's good to see everyone too.
Very good presentation, Papa Patrick.
Thank you
On
so much,
point, as
Jonathan.
usual.
I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. I appreciate it. Thank you. I can see Maman Valérie. Comment ça va? So good to see you. All
I
right. I
actually
love
do have
the.
I have a comment, if you want to call it that way.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add to what Patrick said about uh, bad habits and how to avoid them. Um, it just struck me that sometimes we don't realize the importance of emotion in what we do, whether it's bad habits or even good habits. In this case, for example, we are talking about emotional reactions that we have toward money. For example, when we get paid, some of us, we tend to want to spend it as fast as possible because we believe that we are treating ourselves and we deserve it. And we emotionally just go ahead and binge on anything we can put our hands on, right? We go to the mall, and before you know it, you don't even have enough to pay some of your bills at the end of the month. I just wanted to share an experience. I've been that person that I'm describing right now, and the day I experienced savings, kind of like Patrick said, you just hang in there, you give yourself a goal and you try to execute that goal. You try to look into that on a daily basis. You take a look at the numbers. Don't be afraid of it. I can tell you, the day I realized that I saved, I will not say the amount. And I honestly, the joy that I had was a lot more than any joy that shopping or buying personal things could have done to me. Just so that we can put it out there, it's actually a lot more joyful when you look at your bank account and you have $100,000 than when you go ahead and buy a new iPhone or a new computer or a new anything that you like very much. Just so that we put it out there. It's really important to reward ourselves by the tangible and by the pleasure that saving money can actually do to you.
Well said,
Just
well
so we
said,
can
Holmes.
share that. Mhm.
No, that was well said. Thank you so much for sharing. And I agree with you 100%. And yeah, I can say the amount. I remember when I, first saved $1,000, bro. I was dancing, man. I was like, oh, shoot, I'm a thousandaire. Let me tell you. Can nobody tell me nothing, man. So yeah, you set up goals, 1,000 turn into, 10,000 and so forth. So yeah, I agree with you 100% and thank you for sharing your example there. So nothing wrong with being 100 right? Start with 100. If you can be 100, you can be 1,000 and so forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Uh, oh,
Well,
I'll wait for you.
I have an observation and a question. The first observation, I don't know, these keeps coming back as we have these conferences. How do we make these important information available to the community at large? We have to find a way. We have to find a way.
That is a great question.
We
Ange,
have to
I
find a
know.
way to, yeah.
No, this is exciting actually. Honestly, this is a question with it. It's $1 million question, right? If you find the answer to that, then you essentially saved our community. What I would say about that is that the most important thing is for us to begin something, and what we
Yeah.
have right now is the beginning, and the next step is to propagate and to repeat as often as possible and to share and invite as many people in next sessions as possible. This is the beginning of a big thing. I'm not trying to overestimate or to oversell what we are doing, but it's the beginning of something that can change our own perception of our own community. And
Mama Melanie has a question.
Mama Melanie, happy belated birthday.
Thank you, thank you. Question. Since we're talking about budgeting and we are African, Papa Patrick, I didn't hear about the extended family
Neat.
needs. How do you put it in your budget? Give us some wisdom on that.
Yes, that is a great question. So let me answer to Papa Gilbert comments. I'll answer Maman Melanie, and then Papa Yves, I see your hand up, so we'll get to you as well. So how do we spread the word is every single one of us here can do that, right? So as you joined, I think in the beginning, it's like, okay, what to expect. But as we've gone on, just like you said, Papa Gilbert, these sessions are intended to really educate and provide information, right? We're not charging anything. We just want everyone to know. And it just by spreading the word, right? So we are all a family here. We are all in this together. And we can simply, the more we share, the more people start joining in. And then it doesn't matter if it's 5 people on the call or 500 people, we bring the same energy, right? And sometimes it's that one person that needed to hear that information that changes their life. It's a win for us, right? So we just need that one to impact, right? So figure of speech, of course, but the more we can talk to people, the better it is because all we try to do is provide education. So hopefully that answers your question. So we are all kind of responsible to share the good news. And then, Mama Melanie, that is a great question. So sometimes the way I do for my extended family, it's a budget, right? So it's a bill, right? So I do send money for my grandmother on a regular basis because she needs it, right? That is just one example. And based on that, it's reoccurring. I know that, hey, at the end of the month, I'm sending this. However, there are also unexpected things that happen. It could be a funeral, it could be someone is sick, and that you have to send back home, right? So that will fall under your emergency fund. Okay. So as you're going through your budgeting, you want to save. Let me share my screen. That way it's a little bit more clear. All right. So give me 1 second to share my screen. And right there. Okay. So when you think about someone earning money, number one that I emphasize on is saving for yourself. When you save for yourself, you start investing, you will, in the longer term, you will start having a little bit more money. It's very important to take care of yourself first before you take care of others. It's just like on an airplane, right? If the airplane doesn't have any oxygen, what do? You put your mask on first. Once you put your mask on first, then you can help the person next to you. All right. If you try to help the other person, you will lose your oxygen and pass out. All right. Save for yourself first. Keep track of all your bills. Now, all of the sudden, you have some extra savings that you can put aside for those emergency funds. Okay. So that's where you will want to start leveraging to help here and there. If it's reoccurring, mom is older, she needs her medication every month, just add a bill. Okay. But if it's something unexpected, you tap from your emergency fund. Hopefully, I answered your question there. Okay, thank you. Papa Yves? Papa Yves, you are muted if you try to speak.
Sorry about that. My
Oh,
phone
that's
was
all good.
acting up a bit.
No
All right.
worries. Thanks for
Uh,
being here, my brother.
no
Good to hear your
problem,
voice.
man. No problem. I just had a quick question because I came a little late and I got a few information out of budgeting and stuff. And I also wanted to going from what Angel said earlier about feelings about money and things like that, right?
Mhm.
So my question was because you work with people we go in terms of money and things like that. So I just wanted to know if you have an example of somebody that came to you with all those negative feelings and negative habits. How did you work with him? How did you work towards changing his habits, changing his views about money to get him to a point where he could go, he had a pretty clear plan and acting on it? Because the reason why I'm asking that is because we can learn a lot from, we have theories, we can learn from theories and it's beautiful, but we are human beings and we learn best by watching others, all right, by having other examples. So if you have an example, concrete example to show us, to tell us, so that we can see how you work and how it works and how to eliminate those negative feelings pretty much.
Absolutely. That is a really, really good question. And oftentimes during these calls, I try to leverage my own examples, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
think I shared some of the tools that I personally use for for my own personal use. So to answer your question, the way we change the narrative or the paradigm is by leading by example, right? So I'm not going to tell you to do something that I'm not doing on my own. All right. So if
Yep.
I'm talking to you and say, hey, if you want to make sure you get a great return, I can show you some options, right? I'll show you some options, but I will also show you. I'm not going to do that during this call. We can do that one-on-one, Eve, so I can show you what I'm doing in terms of solution for myself. I'm an open book, but that's how you change someone's mindset by showing them your own example. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. Number two, it's all about information, right? A lot of folks are acting based on lack of information. What they might think is, might not be. All right. So it's really showing them, because numbers don't lie, right? Numbers don't lie, and showing them the differences between, hey, when you invest here, this is what that looks like. If you invest there, this is what that looks like. But it's very simple. If I cannot explain something to you, then I'm not going to be talking about it. It has to be simple enough for anyone to understand. and for me to explain, right? Sometimes you may talk to someone, they give you a bunch of different options and talking about, a lot of different things, but it doesn't make any sense. I don't know about you if you've ever felt that way talking to someone about finances, but for me, it's keeping it simple so that I can explain and you can understand, but it's have a good return, understanding what is your risk level. Nothing wrong with investing in a 401k or any other mutual fund, but you have to understand how it's structured, what is your return, what are the fees implicated with it. If there are no fees, what is your gains, things of that nature. And lastly, it's the taxation. It's understanding how the taxation will work for you at the time of getting your money out. All right. So those are the things that once you show someone how that can work for them, it changes the paradigm, right? It changes the paradigm and you lead by example. So hopefully I answered your question, but let me know if I didn't and I can try to elaborate more.
No, no, actually, you touch a lot of good points, man. Thanks.
My
If
pleasure. My pleasure.
can I just add something on that point Eve
Yes.
raised? I
Hmm.
think it touched on something very, very very crucial here. It's the emotion that's attached in the way we use money, right? Money can feel good when it comes to spending it. Now, when we are spending, it feels good for the moment, but then imagine how you feel when you don't have it. And that's something that we should share with others and remind people of it because it happened that you you know come across some money and all of a sudden you decide you're going to buy yourself a Mercedes. And before you know it, you didn't plan, you didn't budget anything. And all of a sudden you cannot afford to pay your rent at the end of the month and you have to be kicked out of the house. Think about that feeling of being kicked out of the house. I mean, it's shameful, it's embarrassing. It felt good buying the car, but imagine how it felt when you had to pay your dues and you didn't have enough money to cover it. I mean, I think situations like that should be shared with everyone and remind each of us of really what matters, right? I think we all have that sense of pride where if we use just the thoughts of not having it, of having to go beg, or having to expose your family to shame, should be enough for us to change those bad habits. At least I think that's really my take on that.
Very nice. Well said, Ange. Really appreciate it. We do have a question. So someone doesn't have any. First of all, I think we never want to say I'm broke, right? Because words have power, right? When you talk about yourself, you never want to say that, right? So I just wanted to point that out. Just say that, hey, I'm learning or I'm working towards financial freedom, something like that, right? Think positive. But if you don't have the means to have a big wedding, and the wedding is really to honor your bride, right? And honor the in-laws, but at the same time, it can be burdensome. Now, the advice I will give the young man is kind of thinking of myself when I first got married. That wedding will have hundreds of people that you probably will never see and that you actually don't even know. That's the reality, right? It's one day and then it's gone. Then you have to live with your bride for the rest of your days. Okay, so how do you want to start? You want to start with spending all the money on something that is not going to serve you, or do you want to be smart about it? All right. We all want a luxurious big wedding, but it's okay to say, you know what? We cannot afford it right now, but this is what we can do. Budget, right? He needs to budget with the bride and see what is realistic and what is not, and just be upfront with it. There is no shame in being upfront. Hey, we cannot afford this wedding right now. And if we do this, this is how bad financially we are going to be. All right. As opposed to taking $20,000, $30,000 debt for a wedding, why not use that towards a down payment for a home? All right. So there are different things that you can do with it. All right. So not to be brutally honest here, but at the end of the day, it's their wedding, it's their marriage, it's nobody else's. All right. So just be upfront with the reality of where you are and do what you can. If you want to do a bigger wedding, then it might be just waiting it out a little bit. All right. So we didn't finance our wedding. I mean, we still had 100 people, but I worked two jobs. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. I worked two jobs to pay for my wedding because I didn't want to finance it. I didn't want to have any debt. I didn't want anything, right? So you may have to do that, pick up extra income. You may have to work two jobs for a period of time to buy for that wedding, but at the same time, be smart about it. Don't put yourself on a financial bind right off the bat. Number one cause of divorce is financial stress. If you start with the financial stress before you even married, that's not a good start. Hopefully, I answer your question, Jonathan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I thank you so much. I talked to that friend, like he's so into budgeting. Like he want a budget. He doesn't care about having a big wedding. You know, he's also American, he's not Congolese. So there is that sense like it doesn't make sense to him, you know. But I wouldn't say he's a people pleaser, but it's kind of a tricky situation because he doesn't want to come up as disrespectful to his in-laws parents who
Mhm.
dreamed who dreamed of having a big wedding for the daughter, their only daughter, something like that. And it's like even her is the same, and he didn't have the courage to come up to her and be like, hey, we actually shouldn't do that. So there is that sense of trying to talk him out, like, hey, just don't care about it.
Yeah.
Just because also one thing that personally I don't know about him about that, you know, what you call faire part, l'église, the girls' church, or even the girls' families. Like,
Mhm.
I'm also not into inviting 300 people in your wedding.
Right.
You know, it's supposed to be your wedding and you and your wife's wedding. How
Yeah.
come the in-laws, the parents are inviting their friends as well?
Right. Right.
You know,
Yeah.
every guest that you add is like $50 that you're adding, like
Exactly.
in the total money. That's just at least.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not your parent wedding as much as in the Congolese community. There is that sense of tozo balisa, libala na
Mhm.
biso, but when we
Mhm.
think about it, those are cultural flaws that we need to combat. Sans parler que before having the religious wedding, like they want a big party for the traditional as well. Sans parler
Mhm.
de la dot, où il y a maintenant des abus dans notre communauté congolaise. Et
Ouais,
c'est
ouais.
l'une des raisons qui font même que même à Kin, même à l'étranger, les garçons pour se marier, je parle à des gens, it's a little bit tough, you know. And
Mhm. Mhm.
that friend is not even Congolese. He's put in a situation like that. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah. Yeah.
man.
Yeah, so it's all about, thank you for sharing. It's the reality, good or bad. I think sometimes having the traditional wedding and it's all about, honoring your bride and honoring our culture. There is value into it, but when it becomes too much, that can become burdensome, right? So if it's finding the right balance, but it's up to, like I said, the man and the woman to sit down and really decide what makes sense for them, right? So anybody else can have a say so, but at the end of the day, they are the decision maker. And as long as they support each other and really have that frank conversation, okay, I'm not a psychologist or a couples therapist, whatever, but it seems common sense to me that hey, the both of them will want to sit down and decide, okay, this is our wedding. What are we going to do? What makes sense for us? And stick with it. I can promise you, anybody that's saying, hey, we need this, if they go, bon, you know what? Forget about the wedding. We're just gonna get married at the court. They will hold on their horses real quick and be like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. All right. So, mom and dad, you want this luxurious wedding? Okay. Here's the bill, it's $20, $20,000. Give us the money and then we'll have it for you. No problem. That would change the conversation, right? So, it's I don't think budgeting will have anything to do with it. That's really just having that frank conversation among themselves and decide how they want to do it without feeling the pressure of the outside world. Okay, so I don't know if anybody
I
else
want
have
to
any
say
questions.
I want to pitch in.
Please,
I
thank you,
think
Mamo. Thank you, Mamo
I
Valerie.
I think that we fail to realize something that brother said. He said that she's the only girl. So I'm the only girl, and I did get married, and it's like my parents did so much for me, and it was very important for us to honor my parents because they're not gonna go marry another girl. That's number one. That's the person he picked. That's the person that he's trying to go in. So, her parents are not going to have another opportunity to showcase, their daughter and all of that. And I think there's a fine balance because for me, as far as even like the diary, I was like, yes, the diary needs to be given, but at the same time, I was like, if the family goes into this whole thing, oh, she's a doctor, so blah blah blah. I'm like, I'm gonna tell my parents, review that. But thank God it was something that was in the order of what was okay, um so I think another point about what he described is that the girl herself wants a big wedding, so we can't just think that this is a parent situation. The girl herself wants a big wedding. So as you said, brother Patrick, I think that they need to sit down, him and her first, and decide what they're going to do. Okay, so I think, the location is also key. Where are they? Are they in Congo? Are they here? Are they going to be traveling? How is it going to happen? But I think that it's going to be
They are here. They
important.
are here in Texas. They are here.
They're here in Texas,
Yeah.
so I think that they can also, like, there's some things that can be done. To me, what I advise now my cousins, for example, I'm like, listen, um, if they're Christian, for instance, you can do the dowry, that's the traditional wedding, super important. And then you can do the justice of the peace. You can have the parents there. So le mariage civil, you can have your parents there, and you can have a minister, a pastor, or whoever bless the wedding. And then whenever, because you don't also want to break your neck, as Brother Patrick is saying, trying to get this thing done, you can always, like, do a small party, and later on you do another party. At the same time too, as we are talking about African families, it's an African thing. So you know the parents' family also pitches in, right? I don't know if the tricky thing is that for Americans, it is a woman's family who pays for the wedding, and him being the guy, it's another thing where are they going to really pitch in because, you know, as far as Americans getting married, c'est la famille de la femme qui paye pour le mariage. So the parents wanting to bring their friends, that's a legitimate thing. At the same time, they don't need to bring 10,000 people, but they still have like their key people they want to think. So they can also contribute with that. It's definitely something they want to sit down, the both of them, talking it out. And if she still wants a big wedding, then she does not need to put everything on sur la tête du mari. She also needs to work hard to bring her part, to bring, so that it's a two people thing in addition to the families. But it's definitely something that has to be a conversation about. But I wouldn't bash her for that or for her desire, and I would definitely not bash the parents. But it's more of just conversation, conversation, conversation.
Well
That's
said,
my.
Mamo Valerie. Thank you.
Yeah, can
Mic
I can
drop.
I
Thank
can
you
I
so much,
can
Mama
I
Valerie.
can I
Uh-huh.
drop some of things from a therapist perspective?
Yes, sir. Please. Thank you,
All
Abe.
right. So I mean, you guys have said a lot of good things, right? Conversations, understanding, but as you said earlier, biggest cause of divorce between couples also just on top of misunderstanding and miscommunication, finances come on top of that. But also, I think what is challenging for this couple is the cultural differences. right? So usually when I have couples like that sitting in front of me that have two different cultures, it's not about trying to minimize one side and prioritize the other, right? Because we all have a different culture, have different come with different perspectives. So it's about figuring out where you meet in the middle, right? Some people will come want the big wedding or things like that, but the other guy comes in, he's like, yeah, my pocket is too low and I can't do anything about it. Like we can talk about conversation, but it also we'll have to figure out where that need of a big wedding comes from, where that need of, but if we can understand what each party needs at first as a couple, outside of the family, outside of anything else, right? So what is it? What does it mean for you to have a big wedding? So if it means something to you, this for this person, the big wedding means this way, and the other person means this way. Try to find a common ground. So once we find the common ground, then we go down to how can we make this happen in terms of finances and things like that. So now you're involving both parties, the man and the woman, to work on a plan together to come up with the money. Okay, so if with the money we're gonna look at this, look at that. That's what mom I think Mama, what was her name? Mama Valerie
Valerie.
said, right? Talking
Yes.
about the man's family bringing money, the women's family bringing money, or something like that, right? It's about coming up with a plan that works together. Because if you go and tells them, oh yeah, you know what, I'm not going to do this with less force, let's buy a house, let's do this, let's force that. It sounds for the other person who's emotionally attached to the solution, it's going to sound like you're forcing me, right? And then when you start a wedding, a marriage, when somebody's already felt frustrated because they did not get what they want in terms of finance, even in terms of finance, or even in terms of the emotional attachment that they had to the solution, you already started with a problem. All right. So what I usually advise couples is, before you get married, before you even think about this, see a professional, understand where your values are, where you attach your values, what your values are in terms of on finances, what are your values in terms of family, how many kids you want. All those things have to be put together so that both of them see what the other one person sees, and then they can make plans in terms of that. Even before making plans for wedding, both of you understand where you guys stand in terms of values, and from those values you move towards making decisions. So even if somebody else comes from the outside telling you, hey, we want this, we want that, right? But like, you know what, the person that I chose has this value around money, around this and that. We already have a plan. Let's stick together. Now, because you have them work on the solution together, they approach this problem as a team, not as a separate entities that have to be together at the end. All right. So
Very
I
nice.
think that's the way I'll usually approach that. That's the way I would talk to my couples. See somebody that's external from you, that's neutral, that will help you come up with a solution so that you get what you need in terms of emotion, and also in terms of understanding.
Thank you so much,
Well
Eve.
said.
I might need your contact to send to my friends as well. I think like you nailed it. And
Mhm,
especially, I knew that statistic about money being the number one reason people divorce.
mhm,
And in the couple months, I've watched few videos of a French TV shows where people talk about the stories about people, separating during the engagement period as they're getting
mhm.
ready to have the wedding because that's stressful. That's
Yeah.
avoir organisé un mariage, c'est vraiment stressful. The first time I've never been married, but I can only imagine. The first time I graduated, I had to do all the organization by myself. Going to pick up my mom, you know, calling the person we were supposed to have the party at, appeler la maman du service traiteur. It made me look so bad as a human being because I didn't know how to handle stress back then. And I still have some family members till these days they don't know how to handle stress. So that's even one reason when I had my second graduation, I was like, I'm not gonna organize anything. I'm gonna, trust put people to do their job. Because that's just a little story of that thing. So I cannot imagine having to go through that organization of a wedding and not stress about it. And You know, that can create a. I've heard a lot recently, a lot of stories about people calling out their engagement.
Let's
So
not forget one thing, Jonathan. Right now, it seems like we're talking about weddings and culture rather than budgets. So
yeah,
what did
sorry.
no, no, let me just it's a
Yeah,
legitimate question, but we need to reframe it within what we're talking about, right? We
yeah,
are talking about budgeting, and Patrick said it in the beginning. Regardless of how much emotion or how much we care about our culture and respect our parents and love our children, when it comes to money, we need to do our best to be objective. So if you do not have the budget for it, how would you do it in the first place? So that's basically what we are calling emotional decisions, right? You cannot decide on money based on emotion alone because you can put yourself in danger. You can jeopardize the wedding or your marriage before you even begin it. So what Patrick said, I'm going to let Patrick respond to that. If I understood him correctly, he was explaining that it's absolutely important to look at the numbers and the facts and base our decision when it comes to money on facts, not on our emotion or how we feel about something. Because ultimately, regardless of how far or how strong we feel about something, if you cannot afford it, why would you want to go out of your means to do something that you cannot afford?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I love the comments there. And I would say, Jonathan, Papa Eve, that's, his area of expertise. I would say, just have them connected and then they can have the conversation because we make great points here, right? In terms of emotions, culture, finances, and Papa Eve can definitely, drive them. So, Maman Cathy, you have a question? Please go ahead.
Oui, bonsoir, bonsoir à tout le monde.
Moi,
Ben, je vais parler en
Bonsoir,
français,
maman
hein.
Cathy.
Bonsoir,
il n'y a pas
papa.
de souci.
Magnifique, magnifique comme conversation. Moi, de tout ce que j'entends ici, après avoir été wedding planner pendant plus de 25 ans, je me rends compte qu'il y a un besoin de concentrer et de sensibiliser les jeunes sur l'importance de réduire les dépenses, surtout que nous sommes dans des temps durs, nous sommes dans un pays où il y a une culture différente. Je pense qu'ici, il faudrait saisir l'occasion de faire un autre séminaire ou un networking avec tous les jeunes qui sont fiancés et qui veulent se marier et parler du budget, parler de maintenant, la grande fête pour impressionner, mettre sur Facebook et l'après-demain. Est-ce qu'on mange? Est-ce qu'il y a encore à manger? Est-ce qu'on a sauvé assez? Je pense que ce serait un bon topic, n'est-ce pas, Papa Ange?
Oh, absolument. Je vais d'ailleurs vous contacter sur ce sujet-là parce que je pense que vous êtes la meilleure personne pour faire avec.
Merci, merci beaucoup. Merci, Papa Patrick.
Merci pour la proposition. Oui,
Merci,
oui.
merci. All right.
très belle proposition. Merci beaucoup. Mhm.
Oui,
You're
oui.
welcome.
Man, this is I love the conversation that we're having, and that's the whole point, right? So I know we went a little bit off topic, but that's okay. It's okay, right? Because we are being engaged, we having conversation, we exchanging ideas, and that's the whole purpose here. So thank you. Peacemaker, what's cracking, my brother?
Yes, good. All right.
Doing
So I'm
amazing.
sorry. I can, yeah. So I just want to make a little bit a comment on whatever they said about wedding, and then I have a question to ask after that. It's not about wedding anymore, but that's my personal question.
Yeah.
So about the wedding, like everybody said, I guess I was like here, clacking my hand about everybody said it's okay. But like me, what I did, because I got married 4 years ago. We sat down, me and my wife, we did a plan and ourselves, because at the end of the day, the marriage is not the parent, whatever they said, but is about men and women. They get married. So to say, okay, because my mom want this, my daddy want this, I have to give to them. Like Patrick said, they need to put down some money. So, but we did everything in our own. My wife was working, I was working. We came out together. We planned our wedding, and everything was good. It was okay. But so my question is, I know. So everything Patrick you said here, it was for someone who is working. But for someone who is not working, so how is budget going to be? Because he's spending money every single day. Okay, I give my example because I need to be first example on this. I'm not working. My wife, she's not working. I'm a full-time student, but I'm just looking my left and right to make my family survive. I have 3 little kids. So how can I make this budget working as long I don't have a specific amount of money I'm getting every month? So that's my question, because I've been struggling on this situation. It's been like 2 years since they let me off from work, and then I made my decision. I know it was a crazy decision to go back as a full-time student. So I don't know, what is your advice on how I can deal with this situation? Because I know my school is almost over. Next spring is going to be my last semester for my graduation. So what is going to be your advice on this situation? Because that's my personal concern.
Yeah, yeah. Now that is a great question, right? So when you talk about budgeting, there are two components to it. Number one is the income, right? So when you budget, you factor in your income, and then you factor in your expenses, right? So without an income or steady income coming in, it makes the budgeting exercise a lot more difficult, right? So if you and your
Yes.
wife are not working, and you do have children involved, then that means somehow, some way, there is still some type of money coming in. However, it's coming in to be able to provide for food and things of that nature, right? So that's
Yes.
where the budgeting exercise is even more strict or tight, because every penny counts, right? So I would approach it the same way in terms of, okay, this is how we're getting our income, right? And we can talk about it offline, Peacemaker, in terms of the income coming in. It could be, whatever means and how you are maybe leveraging some old savings or unemployment or whatever. That money is still coming in, because there was a time when I didn't have a job, right? So I was sustaining strictly of my savings and of my, unemployment while I was looking for a different project, right? So, that can happen. But the exercise is the same. It's just that from an expense standpoint, now you really want to reduce and minimize the expenditure, which I believe you are doing as a student. So that's one. And then two, it's looking ahead, right? So you may be on a deficit right now because you are a full-time student, you are not working, your wife is not working, but you are just about to graduate, right? And with that piece of paper,
Yes.
now it's grinding and figure out different ways to get a job and then start getting ahead, right? And you are not
Yes.
the only one in the situation. In the beginning, to catch up, you may be picking up another job, a part-time job or something, just to get yourself out of that, right? But we can talk about it offline on other ways of making extra money. So I can definitely show you that as well. So let's connect, and then we can talk about that a little bit more. So, I trust that I answered your question, but like I said, we can pick this up offline and talk a little bit longer, okay?